Hey guys, so to solve one-step equations, we're going to look at what operations happen into the variable and then do the opposite operation to both sides. So a couple of things to look at first. Opposites. The opposite of adding is subtracting. All right, so you might have known that already or not really thought about it before. But if you think about it in maths, if you add something to something else, then you subtract it to get back to the start, basically. So the adding and subtracting are opposites, multiplying and dividing are opposites. And this one kind of confuses some people. So squaring is the opposite to square root. So what I mean by that is if I was to take 4 and I was to square it, so square it means you put this little blue here. So 4 squared, that really what that means is 4 multiplied by itself. 4 times 4 equals 16. If I was to take the square root of 16, and square root is this thing, this symbol, so square root of 16 is actually 4. All right, square root, you're trying to think of a number at times itself, would be the number inside. So you get back to the start here. So the opposite of squaring is square root. So that little 2 and that symbol for square root are actually opposites to each other. So it's just something to remember because we'll see it over here later. Other thing, what we're going to do in a minute, um, we're going to do the operation to both sides. So the reason that you do the operation to both sides is just to take something like 5 equals 5, all right? So that's an equation in itself. It just doesn't have any variables or any letters in it. So if I was to say times the left-hand side, so the left-hand side of this equation by 2, you get 5 times 2, which is 10. So in order to keep this equation balanced, have to do the same on the other side. So I have to do 5 times 2 over here, which is 10. All right, now that might sound simplistic, but it's worth thinking because it's going to help you get your head around these equations in a second. So let's look at these 4 examples anyway. So the first one, 9 equals u over 8. So my variable in this question is u. By variable, all I mean is letter. Okay, so in maths we say variable instead of letter. So every time you see a letter, you call it a variable instead. Now, so 9 equals u divided by 8. So really what it means is 9 equals something divided by 8. Now, if you were to think about it, you might come up with the answer straight away. You should kind of see that the answer is going to be 72 here. So 9 equals 72 divided by 8. So this u has to be a 72 really. But the way we're going to solve them is by following these steps over here, because this is going to help us solve bigger and harder problems later on, and it's the right habits to get into in maths, and it's the best way to show your work. Right, so you must kind of get your head around the step in order to figure out the variable. So if I look at what operations happen into the variable, right, so u is my variable, it's being divided here by 8 because there's an 8 underneath it. So that's what it means in maths when something is over something else like that. So in this question, u is being divided by 8. So look at my step 2 over here. I'm going to do the opposite operation to both sides. So because u is being divided by 8, I'm going to multiply by 8. And watch the way I do the same thing on both sides to keep the equation balanced. So on the left hand side, I have 9 multiplied by 8. So 9 multiplied by 8 is 72. Keep my equals in the middle. What actually happens over here is because u is being divided by 8 and multiplied by 8, the divide by 8 multiplied by 8, they cancel each other out, so you're left with u. Alright, so one step and I've solved the equation. Let's look at the second example here. So d here is my variable, and in this question, d is being squared because I see there's a little 2 above it. So if I look over here, the opposite of squaring is square root. So I'm actually going to square root both sides here. So if I square root the left-hand side, I do square root of 81. And that has to equal, and what you're really doing on this side is the square root of d squared. So the square root and the square, they cancel one another out, so you're left with d on the right-hand side. And on the left-hand side, you do square root of 81, which is 9. So d has to equal 9 here. A third example, a little bit harder because you've got a minus 7 over here. But if I look at my variable again, it's j in this case. And in this question, j, there's 9 being taken away from j, because I see that minus 9 beside it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the opposite of minus and 9, which is add 9. So I put my add 9 on both sides. So on the left hand side, I have j minus 9 plus 9. So what actually happens is the minus 9 and the plus 9, they cancel each other out. So you're left with j. On this side, you have minus 7 plus 9, which is going to be 2. Last example then. So j here is being multiplied by 2. So you should remember in algebra, if things are written beside each other like that, if you have a number and a variable beside each other, that means multiply. So j is being multiplied by 2 here. So because it's being multiplied by 2, I'm going to do the opposite again. I'm going to divide by 2. Divide by 2, divide by 2. J equals 6 divided by 2 is 3.